build my gallows and build them high. Makes a long time climbing before I die.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Longbangers. I'm Matty, joined tonight by Colin. Yeah, is that right?
Yeah,
Joined-
indeed.
Yep.
Aye.
It was merely still the way I worded that. I was like, is that
Aye.
what I normally say? Joined by? Yeah, joined by Colin. How are you doing,
wasn't
Colin?
listening.
Nah,
I'm all right, mate. I wasn't listening to you, so I didn't pick up on it.
this folk already switched off.
No, what the fuck is this shite that I was saying?
You all right, though?
I'm good, mate. Aye. I'm good. I'm just looking at the bookmarks. Fucking hell. We've not deleted anything for ages. So I'm trying to find the most recent ones as a nightmare.
It would just be anything for yesterday, or in fact this morning, I think. What we're talking about here with bookmarks is the talking points that folk tweet us. Normally we stick them in a wee folder in the Twitter bookmarks and then sort through them as we go through the episode. So tonight we're going to cover Hibs win at Ross County, which took us up to 4th place in a venue that we don't normally do that well in. So it was good to get the 3 points and come back down the road in a good position, especially with the way that some of the other results went over the weekend. We'll talk a wee bit about, I suppose, some of the topics that came up in the Twitter spaces that we did last night, Colin. We'll probably spend less time talking about Porteous than we did yesterday, because I think we've covered Ryan extensively over the last wee while, and we're starting to sound like a broken record with him. But there's obviously a wee bit because he got a goal and he's had his Scotland appearance. We'll speak about him, but we'll probably not dwell on him. Martin Boyle, forward options, and whatever else comes up on the talking points, we'll cover it off. First one I call just like a lot of folk yesterday, I think we were a bit hamstrung in terms of viewing the game because there were some broadcast issues and neither of us made it up to Dingwall. So we were only really kind of talking about the bits of the first half that we've seen, which were shown on Sports Scene, and then the full second half, which we both saw. So just in general, what was your take on the game?
I think I was saying it last night when we done the spaces, but I only seen the second half, but it seemed really comfortable, especially for a game up there, because we've not got John here to do the stats for us. But I don't think we've got a really good. It doesn't feel like we've got a really good record up there. Like there was a period when we lost every time we went, isn't there? Like it was 3-0 in that. So for a game which is sort of traditionally, in my head at least, tough, it seemed dead easy. Second half, they were just dominated it.
And why do you think that was?
Well, we're a better team than them, but I mean that doesn't always count, does it? Because we're a better team than Livingston and St Mirren, and we went through. It was one of the away games where this season we've let ourselves down, and we never yesterday.
No, I think we were talking about it last night, weren't we? About that sort of Hibs at a standard of performance at the moment. And yesterday was probably indicative of. I think Lee Johnson described it as a professional performance without being stellar or words to that effect. And I don't know if it was maybe a wee bit harsh. I thought our second half performance was really good. Very, very attacking.
Yeah.
There was a stat I saw on Hibs.net earlier on that I think we've had the second most shots in the league after Celtic this season, or chances, whatever they work out on, yeah.
Because that was a big failing last year, wasn't it? How many times did I say, or we say, like, we need the midfield to chip in with a goal, we need the midfield to just take a shot, just hit a fucking shot. That kind of comments that we were making.
Yeah.
It's just different.
And we're getting a bit of consistency in the lineup as well. So I think, from the top of my head, it's the exact same team that started against Aberdeen. Were you happy with that decision, or because McCurdy was available again? Obviously, McGuinness made the squad.
No, of course I was happy with it. Well, it was convincing against Aberdeen as well. So why would you change it? It was I think it was the right thing to do. Aye. And I wouldn't change it again for this week.
Are you a believer in that then? That never change a winning team?
Aye, I think I am, and mainly, aye. Depends. I mean, obviously, there's big things like number one keepers and all that. If they're out and the team win, they generally would come back in, and it would probably be similar if like Boyle was out and we won a game. I would still expect Boyle to come back in the team, but in the main, aye, I agree with that. It wouldn't just change it for the sake of it. I wouldn't have brought McCurdy in just on the basis of a 15-minute sub appearance the last time to come out over Yuan, who There's still obviously no scored, but I wouldn't just chop and change it just for the sake of it. I would do it for a proper first team established guy.
Aye, I tend to agree with that. I think I've always been a big advocate of consistency in selection. I think teams do better if you can keep the team playing together as often as possible, so long as it's doing well. Obviously, if you're not winning games, you need to make changes. But I think when the team's doing well, if you can keep it together and don't just change for change's sake, it makes a difference. Lee Johnson spoke about the depth of the squad with players coming back after the game. I don't know if you've seen the Hibs TV interview with him. Sometimes you're no big on watching all these things.
I've not seen any interview. I've not even read it. I've not done that. I've
not
even watched Sports Scene for the first half. You mentioned.
Oh, have you know? You didn't miss that. There wasn't much happening in the first half. Marshall made a good save, and we missed a couple of chances. Josh Campbell had a good chance, and a few shots that kind of didn't quite trouble us. That the keeper, Porteous had one that the keeper tipped over. But I know a lot happening in the first half. Most of the action, thankfully, was in the second half, which again I think is just testament to how in tune the team are with the fans now that they've gone.
Correct.
This isn't getting seen, guys. Just fuck about for the first half. Save all the good stuff for the second half when folk can watch it.
I know. I'm glad they did. I didn't get any volume in the commentary for the goal, for the first goal. So it was one of them when you need to concentrate because there's no commentary. Having said that, I didn't mind it with no commentary.
Aye.
Without getting into any details on that.
No.
But no, you, Cliff. You're all right.
We'll come to the talking points in a minute, but we'll just kind of quickly go through the goals. So the first one comes from a throw-in, actually, Newell, long throw into the box, and then Porteous just sort of is persistent and tenacious.
It was Newell, because Newell's you would think it would be. I can't think of Joe Newell taking a throw in before. Never mind that a long one. You think I was listening to another podcast. We were talking like time machine that we often refer to. They were talking about long throw-ins the other day. Did you hear it? It's the Musley guy that takes the long throw-in. So they were talking about West Ham and Sunderland and that, but they were talking, it was Michael Antonio used to take the West Ham ones because he was the Musley guy. But we would have two. Who would be a Musley guy to take the throw?
Well, McGuinness now.
He was on the pitch at the time.
Right enough. But I think all the players are bulking up now. They all look different. It must be like a change in the training regime to just kind of focus on that sort of stuff.
No, it's good though. I mean, we mentioned that last night as well, didn't we? Because how often have we said got a bit of talent, but getting easy pushed off the ball and all that? We've said that loads. Yeah. The laddies that came on against, was it St Johnstone at the end of last season, or was it Norwich, or both maybe even the Norwich game? They look handy. You've got a nice touch and all of that, but they just look like wee laddies, like proper wee laddies, like school laddies. So hopefully they're working on it as well, as a whole, the whole thing.
Can you remember us scoring from a throw-in recently?
No, recently. I mean, the one that came to mind was Scott Allen in the 2-0 derby a wee while back. Because the reason I remember is because Levine came for a throw-in, and you think, it came for a throw-in, but it wasn't like a long throw into the box. But that was why I remember that. But we're bound to have scored for. Mind you, we did take long throw-ins. So
not really. Not really. It was interesting to see, because actually at first, because it was early in the second half, I was sitting on FaceTime with my son, and he'd shouted yes, because the goal had come through Sky Sports News before. Again, there's always like that wee bit of delay.
That's annoying.
Again, so he'd spoiled
the notifications off.
He spoiled the surprise. But anyway, like it could have been worse. It could have been conceding a goal. But
I thought at first, fucking worry if you would yes at that.
I kept hanging right up. At first, I thought it'd come for a corner. I only kind of watched it back. I was like, what the hell, I throw in. But anyway, weird thing, if you get a chance to watch Sports Scene, in the footage, watch the way Malky Mackay drinks his bottle of water just before. It's hard to describe. It just doesn't look right. It was like, I watched it back a couple of times.
Does he put his whole mouth over the bottle, like over the?
No,
lid?
it's like it's a full bottle of water, but somehow he's like he's got it all tipped right back. Like you wouldn't do that with like a full bottle. You would just kind of.
That's when you get to the end.
Aye.
It's weird.
It looked odd. Aye.
That's got to make me watch it more than the interviews. I do normally watch the highlights. I've not been feeling well today, but I do normally watch it. And it's recorded, so I will watch it and fast forward through it because I want to see the Aberdeen penalty that I've only seen on Twitter. Because I'm interested to hear Goodwin calling his player out. Because what I've seen on Twitter, he's definitely made the most of it. And I'm sure Goodwin probably told them to do it as well. So these fucking referees will be getting weighed into the Del record again this week.
I hope so. I probably shouldn't say, I wouldn't want to ruin Malky Mackay's reputation. I have him branded as a weird water drinker, eh?
No.
So.
No. That's the last thing he needs. Because these perceptions just grow.
They do. It just takes one person to say something like that, and before you know it, that's what he's known for. Anyway,
maybe that's why he does it.
Maybe. There's a logic there. The camera's on me. Quick, do something weird. Right, Porteous, anyway, what we're saying, his finish was really good, eh? Like, he's kind of bustled his way through and then just found the bottom corner.
That was a good finish, but that's what we said about him before. Like, I mean, I didn't go to many 19s games back in the day, but I did. I mind watching some of them on the TV and that as well, or mind in the cup when they won the cup and all that. And he was a good goal scorer at youth level, and he scored a few for the men's team. But I think at youth level he scored fairly frequently. He was a bit laddie. He looked like he was probably like Highlands in the 19s, just like big guys knocking everybody out the road. But he did score a lot of goals when he was in youth football.
Yeah.
From my memory, like from my knowledge, somebody will go, you're talking shite, but it felt like he scored a lot. So he's got it in him. And he took it really well,
Aye, and what I like about the Hibs team now is when we go a goal up, we didn't settle on it. It wasn't like we go, right, that'll do, just make sure we secure the win and settle for that. We kept pushing, and actually had a few other chances before Boyle got the second one. What did you make of the Boyle's goal?
So it was McCurdy had the ball out wide, didn't he? And then who knocked it across to him?
Cadden, I think.
Cadden, aye. So it was a good ball for Cadden, another assist for Cadden. Now there's folk in the middle making runs in that, interestingly. It was good. It was just a decent goal. But what was good about it was it took the heat off, because that was about 80ish, maybe 70, late 70s, early 80 minutes. And it took the heat off everybody, giving it when we get to 85 minutes, they started getting corners and just long throws and chucking the ball in the box and that. The pressure was off a wee bit, and it just let everybody calm down. It allowed us to get McGuinness on as well.
Yeah. And it was a really safe 2-0 as well. Like you said, it's one of these scorelines, isn't it? 2-0 that folks say you're never safe at 2-0 if it just takes
How many times have we watched over, certainly through the COVID time and that, but probably more last season. You're watching Hibs TV, and Cliff and whoever or Tam it was last year would be saying, we need to get the first goal. Like, and we just didn't. We would lose the first goal away from home. Like we have already this season at other grounds, but so the difference there. But then it was you need to take our chances and all that. Like we still had more chances. We still got more we could have taken, but we took two, and two's generally enough. Like there's no many times you need to score more than 2 goals to win. I don't think, and no in our league. No, and we're defence as well.
Aye,
we
don't
often concede more than 2. So.
And so it was a fairly unremarkable game, other than it was a satisfying performance. Both we got in terms of talking points. You want to pick a couple out?
So there was one we've kind of touched on it. Do you think McCurdy deserves a start over you in this for Cammy? He's been hot and cold so far, struggling to see where his best position is. Finishing needs to be better, to play through the middle, and on the wing doesn't look like it's working. I wonder if he's meaning. He must be meaning Yuan, all that stuff, actually. Yeah.
It's an interesting one. The whole forward line, like if you were to broaden that, because the Yuan or McCurdy, you would definitely have that question, because Boyle and McCurdy were switching when they were but sometimes Boyle and Yuan do that as well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I sort of think it's worth persevering with a player. Like I think Yuan's shown early doors that he's got something about him.
Yeah,
he's maybe not been. He didn't do very much in the Aberdeen game, to be totally honest. Yesterday, again, probably wasn't as involved as McCurdy was when he came on. So I suppose that's, if you're the manager, you want your sub to come in and be better than the guy that is replacing, and give you a decision to make for the next game. So maybe it is a case that McCurdy earns a spot for the next game, but then we go back to what we were saying earlier about changing the winning team.
I know. But then were we winning? When did McCurdy come on? Was it 0-0?
We would have been 1-0 because we scored right at the start of the second half.
So we did. Yeah.
Right at the start. So we would have been in front.
Aye, you're right. Ed Norville says similar. Where does Ewan fit if McCurdy takes his spot on the left? He said also be interested to hear your boys' thoughts on our apparent lack of an actual number 9. Second question kind of leads on from the first. Ewan isn't a number 9 either. But then Andy Grierson is saying, what a player we have in Big McCullough. McCurdy was lively. Toss it between McCurdy and Ewan and becomes the main man. So I think they're right. But I think the big man is the big number 9. I mean, I'm quite impressed with him.
Well, I think he took.
No scored yet, but
he took 99, didn't he? So I suppose that was because 9 was already taken. I think he's as close to the sort of target man, traditional number 9 as we've got at the club.
Yeah,
but I think it's one of these, like an embarrassment of riches almost, that we're going to find ourselves in that sort of position soon, because you've got not just McCurdy and Ewan.
I think somebody listed them all, mate. Give me a second. I'm just scrolling through them here. I thought somebody listed all the options we have. But I can't see them. What somebody did say is, here's the players that didn't make the starting 11. They didn't start yesterday. 11. He's called it. Dave. This is. So you've got Schofield or I guess Dabrowski in goals. Miller, Bashiri, Fish, Stevenson, Doyle Hayes, Henderson, McGuinness, McGeady, Nisbet, McCurdy, and then that still leaves Tavares, Bojan, Mitchell, and Melkerson on the bench. So that's like starting to look what you're saying there about embarrassment of riches, isn't it? When you get, because we've got, if that's McGuinness back now, we've still got McGeady to come back, who everybody's kind of forgotten about and or written off.
Yep.
But he was starting to, I thought he was starting to come good, and he got that injury in the pre-season game. And Nisbet's massive when he comes back.
Aye. I mean, Nisbet, I think, wasn't having the best season when he got injured, but we know when he gets the service, like the first season he had at the club, it was outstanding. Sure, like
it was that part you're talking about was without Boyle, because so it wasn't. Yeah. So now you're looking at it, and well, maybe not so much actually, because Boyle only left in the January, then he got injured in the February. So yeah, so it was on a bit. But I think it'd be interesting to see where he plays him, because you just play him through the middle, because I think he brings what the big guy brings. Maybe he brings more goals than the big guy.
But I mean, like, Nico's only had two games, and I think Tracy Smith made the point on Twitter, because of international duty, he's only been with the team, I think, 4 or 5 days.
Aye,
since joining. So you know, to have had the impression that he's made, or to have made the impression that he's made so far, you'd have to give him credit for it, and that's, you would imagine, he's going to get better as he gets more games. But it does. It sort of begs the question, like, where do all these players fit in? Like Melkerson, we talked about it. Was it just last night, or was it last week we were talking about it, where he was like the big sort of marquee signing last January? It was.
Again, during the weekend when we done the Wednesday one, was it?
He had folk pretending they were Hibs fans, kind of like Norwegian football experts pretending they were Hibs fans, to tell us how good he was, and now you're sort of like, because of his concussion and he's been out for weeks, he's not even getting quoted as considered as being close to the first team, which is crazy. Nisbet, again, because of how we play, you think, where does he come in? Bojan didn't make the bench yesterday. I think he was away travelling in international duty as well, so he's probably had quite a tough week, or a tiring week, sitting on planes or whatever. And the last thing he probably needed was a bus trip up to Dingwall.
Exactly. The last thing anybody needs, isn't it?
It's the last thing anybody needs.
Because it's interesting though, because Dave Graham's actually put something that kind of ties in. It's not on the forward areas, but on that size of the squad and the quality that we apparently have there. Where does Kyle fit in, assuming we stick 4-3-3? Stick with 4-3-3.
I thought, who did he come on for? He came on for Miko, didn't he? So he took off the number 9 to play McGuinness. or number 99 to play McGuinness.
I'm thinking he would come in for Campbell still. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to. I'm saying I think that's the obvious in that midfield three, the obvious direct replacement. Because I think Borneo, but I think probably more likely Campbell.
Aye, so I can't see him coming in for Kenna because we spoke at length last night about what Kenna brings to the team, but also Kenna was one of our big signings this season, and he came to the club to play first team football, so I think he's going to be as long as he keeps. Aye.
How he went out the team, like because he done all right in the derby and that at the start of the season, and then I mean we were all shite at Livingston. That was the first loss, but he seemed to get the blame for it and was like out the picture for 2 or 3 games, and now he's back and everybody's gone, what a difference again.
Aye.
And you think, was it either just did he get the blame for the Livingston one, or was it just the manager playing with a young laddie in and out this team like at the right times? So he didn't then compound a second bad game in a row.
Well, I think the if I remember back to the Livingston game and Lee Johnson's comments after it, he was talking about like what's the effect of players needing to be up to speed, the type of game in Scotland, and being brave enough to kind of get on the ball and realise what's going on. Tavares obviously hasn't really featured since then, and that's who I think everybody thought he was directed at. But then you look at the goal that we lost, Kenna was at fault for it as much as Hanlon took a good chunk of the blame for a half-arsed challenge. Really, Kenna was the one that just sort of jogged about and didn't really look interested, and you could understand why he lost his place. Maybe that's what he needs. Maybe it's quite good management. Now he's come back into the team. He's determined that he's got to show that he's at that level. Josh Campbell's an interesting one because Campbell's, I think he's closest to how McGuinness plays in terms of being that sort of box to box.
Aye, I think he is at the moment. Aye, I mean Newell's a bit box to box, but he's a bit different. Like I think Campbell's got maybe a goal threat than Newell.
Yeah,
to be quite honest,
definitely.
Even though he's not scored many, but he's still probably one of our top scorers this season, isn't he? Behind Boyle, obviously.
Just while we're on the subject of Josh Campbell, one moment of the game yesterday where Ross County had their best chance and Campbell slid in for the block and the ball sort of ricocheted off him. He's on the ground and headed it out the way, and he's headed it, I think, to Cadden, who then clears it right back off of Campbell's head. It's on the ground. It's just kind of those when you look at who you're fucking I looked safe. Just got up and got on with it though. Fair play to him. Aye, but so McGuinness, Newell and Kenna has been, because I don't think he'll change the formation. If you look at how we're playing now and the chances we're creating, you're not going to change that, are you?
No, unless I don't think so. Unless at home against, if we can start to pull away and we're beating teams regularly and we've got a bit of a flow, you might start changing formation at home against Dundee United or whoever's bottom of the league. You might say, well, we'll go 2 up front rather than the 2 wide guys. It depends who you're playing against. Whatever formation they play, you might say, well, we want 4 over the middle rather than the 3. I don't know. I don't understand tactics, but you know what I mean. I don't know how you would combat it. But there might be games where you do it, because that was always the thing. Folk would always say Bartley Bartley shouldn't be playing in games at home against
Hamilton or whoever. Aye.
That would be McGeoch and all that coming back in for day games, but I don't know if that's ever. I don't know how true that is, but
the other thing it does, and the benefit of having Josh Campbell playing well and having options there, Henderson available, is it means McGuinness doesn't have to get rushed in. And I think Hibs will beat kid gloves with him. Wrap him up in cotton wool, bleed him in gently, and then hope that's enough for him to kind of get a sustained run in the team.
Yeah, I think so. Will I pick something else?
Aye, go for it.
There was a few in Ryan Lyle saying Ewan needs a goal. Yeah.
I
think we've been saying that for a few weeks now. A couple of others. Guinness 22. Delighted to see Kyle back. He's asking how he went as a sub. I think he didn't have much time, did he? But it was just good to see him back. The Charlie Mulgrew thinks you've made that up. Great result. Only managed to listen on the radio. Small pet peeve. How come commentators have started using penetrative pass instead of through ball? Does my tits in. Just like when they all started using double whammy when Slice Judge Dredd film came out in the 90s. What's your thoughts on penetrative passes?
Aye, there must have been a manager started using it. Do you know that's what happens? Is it's like they'll say, like, in the moment. Now we've had a good moment. I think it's because of the influx of sort of continental managers into the English game, particularly. Then when they're on Match of the Day getting interviewed, they'll talk about kind of moments this because you notice Sean Maloney used to say it, but he was obviously done loads of his time with Martinez and the Belgian team. So you have these things coming through. Penetrative pass. I always think, unless you're using the word penetration to be funny, it's no one that you should be kind of. Aye, that's it.
Aye. Not only through ball. It's like that one with football. There was the cynical challenge thing. I always thought cynical meant something else. It actually does have that definition in it now. I don't think it always did. About it being you hack somebody down. Sorry, the cynical, but never like cynical used to be you were like dubious or like you disbelieved like a fact or something. But then football seemed to make it popularise this fucking cynical foul thing.
Yeah. Well, they changed it for professional foul. Like professional foul used to be a last man foul, like to stop a goal scoring opportunity.
Still say last man.
Aye.
Because I've seen folk like McGregor one yesterday at Celtic, just completely wiped the boy out. And folks saying he wasn't even last man. You're like, he doesn't have to be. The boy's going through and goal. No. So it's a goal scoring opportunity. So
as that boy fell down, he had McGregor. I think if he engineered it.
Aye, maybe he did. And I bet his fucking manager felt him to as well.
Aye. Did you see their own goal?
No.
The Celtics.
I've not seen sports scene yet, mate. I need to catch up. I've just seen clips on Twitter.
They would dwell on other teams or anything, but it's always good when you get a daft own goal. So the ball's come in, looped in, the boys try to chest it back to the goalkeeper, but Hart's the other side him. He just chested it past him. And he just dribbled in, and it was slow enough for Hart to think he could get it and try to dive backwards in. And
I've seen better. Did he get caught in the net as well?
No, it wasn't fast enough for him to go all the way into the net. Aye,
they're the best ones when the goalie gets or the defender
or the defender, aye,
tied up in the net.
Or if they slide into the post, that's good as well.
John Watt says starting to come together, controlled the game. With the squad getting fitter, there will be competition for places, which can only be a good thing. Things are looking up. Tracy Smith, it's great being able to see it all. It's great being able to see it all starting to click with the team. Clean sheet and scoring goals. I feel really positive about this season. Fully believe we'll finish third or fourth. This squad is good enough to achieve that. And what a week for Porto. We've got a couple of folks suggesting that, like, giving benefit of the doubt or encouraging players who maybe aren't in the team at the moment as well. So Chris Finn, I'm still in the Tavares will come good camp. For what reason, I don't know. Although a loan to somewhere for some competitive games would probably be a good idea. And John A, once Bojang scores, he's going to tear it up. McGeady has to go, given his pro-Celtic radio appearance. I didn't realise that. Off late, awful stuff. Demi Mitchell, total forgotten man. Maybe Tavares as well, but we don't have loads of wingers. And Kaiser Soze, not the original, or certainly not the original to Longbangers. I don't know who was on Twitter first. Says that Ewan has a turny pace, as he showed in the derby. Playing it wide is not his favourite position, but he finds himself stuck out there due to his lack of goal threat, in his opinion. Tavares is clearly not at this level. Yet to see him beat a man, including even lower league opposition in the cup. And then others there's Johnny again. Actually, if everyone is fit and stays fit, what happens in January? But players will have to get loaned out. If so, who? And I think that was one of the ones. I think that was then. I've then read his reply.
Aye, then it kind of spirals onto that.
Yeah.
Right, so we'd start with that. It all coming together is probably a good place to start. And we talked about it yesterday. The reference to Lee Johnson saying it'd take to about September.
Yeah,
I think before we started to see what his team was capable of. We've won our last three, but I think against the St Mirren game aside, where we were really poor, and first half Livingston, I think in every game that we've played so far, we've created enough chances to win the game, like more than enough. Like Livingston, we battered Livingston that second half, and although we got the goal back, and we conceded a sloppy one. had we got a draw for that one, we probably would have all been going, that was the least we deserved. Because we got beaten, everybody's fucking raging after it. You go, it was shite because the first half was shite, and that's what we hang on to. But I think there have been signs, and we'll be talk about it in a wee bit before we wrap up about that. Is it the Gers report that you'd shared earlier, which sort of kind of gives you an idea based on, I think, expected goal difference. So this would be the your expected goals for minus your expected goals against would give you, and then they work out who's best and where you end up. And I think it's quite my understanding of it's quite like an effective way of telling you how your season's going to go. I remember somebody saying it about Hibs were in a false position under Jack Ross early in our shit season, where we started off quite well, and they said basically the data says it's not going to last, and you'll crumble, and loads of folk dismissed it. But then that's exactly what fucking happened. We had a shite season, so I think it's quite a good way to predict, although it's still quite a small sample size. But where did that have it? You got it in front of you there, Cole?
I've got here, mate.
Aye, good. Talk us through it.
So I had Celtic and Rangers first two, obviously, but projected points for Celtic being 104 and Rangers 79. I had us in third on projected points of 66, which would be 9 points clear of fourth place, who were Aberdeen, based on the expected goal difference in 90 minutes. Celtic walking away with it. I don't know how that works, because at the moment they're only like 3 points ahead or something, aren't they? But it must be now how many goals or chances of creating.
Aye, so what that will mean is when they've dropped points, they've battered other team. If they got it,
well, they did, didn't they? Because it was like they didn't have about 80% possession in that game. They lost to St Mirren. So okay. It's got us with a expected goal difference of positive 0.56, which gives us a projected points of 66, which is usually enough for third place, and it would be on this projection.
Yeah.
Because it has another tough middle ground, the usual. So it's like Aberdeen, St Mirren. Well, mainly actually Livingston, Motherwell, and Hearts all fighting for the last top 6 place in this league table.
Aye, Dundee United in the bottom.
Yeah, miles away. But I think they did mention that in it, saying that they'll they projected to have 17 points at the end, so they'll probably have more than that. But based on their XG, but that's because they got a 9-0 in there.
Right enough.
So that'll fuck up for them.
Aye, and they'll have. I suppose the better time to look at is after the first round of fixtures, because we're not quite there yet. We're still not played everybody yet. Yeah. Once you've had that first round of fixtures, you could have a look at that table and see what it says. But I think from watching Hibs, and it's interesting because I don't think we've had the credit that we deserve outside again Hibs fans kind of talking about it. But even with Hibs fans, I think we've not really had the credit the team deserves, because like folk have that hangover for last season still.
Aye, and folk talk of doing it. It's like the 10 men thing, playing against 10 men, or late goals, like as if like they don't count.
Aye.
It's like these kind of things that our own fans have been saying, not just like, I don't know if it's like they read it on Twitter and that, and they just think, oh, you're right, and agree with it.
That's what I do.
A late goal still fucking counts. Like, do you take goals off that are early as well then? And say, well, they were too early to count. Or is it only late ones? Like, how is it just before half time? Do they count? Because they're late in the first half. It's like a late goal. Why would it no count? Why does that detract from the result?
Aye, it's like when they take penalties off it.
Aye,
score because of penalties. There's no for open play or whatever. And
yeah.
But I think the signs have been there, and I know somebody mentioned there as well, but the players coming back to fitness, and I know they're returning from injury, but the fitness thing, I can be touched on it earlier. Definitely looks like we're a fitter and stronger team now than we have been in previous seasons, because I think we've played anybody yet that's looked stronger than us or faster than us, or as the game's drawn towards the end, have looked like they've got more in the tank than we have. I think it's been another way round.
And late goals show that, don't it?
Yeah.
Late goals prove that. So that's a factor, and that's the positive, if you want to take a positive out of it. We're scoring late goals, which means we're possibly playing at the end, playing for each other, but maybe also fitter than other teams.
Aye.
So, although I don't know when, because I've seen training. I've seen I've seen training a couple of times and it never worked hard. I've seen the under-19s training this morning and you're like, this is pish easy. I could do it. Even in the Nick I'm in now, 44-year-old. But
well, the open training session, I mean, that was kind of doing head tennis and that. It was like
aye.
Because
Because I played 2 days ago, so you can't even run a boot because it's like 2 days ago you played the match.
Aye.
Fucking hell. They've done a 10k 2 days ago. Right. Unbelievable. You should have had them run up doing that park, just a beep test.
Up the
Like,
tennis.
could have
Up the stand, like get up the stairs and back to Riggy. Well, get them running.
They should do that at the next open training session, Adam, and get that sorted if you're listening. The fucking beep test. We all kind of sit and cheer it. Eugene would win. We spoke about this, eh?
Josh Campbell.
Campbell. Cadden would be in my shout as well, eh? I think the midfielders would all be in my shout.
I think Cadden's been the same since he's not been getting his boiler serviced.
Aye. Is that euphemism?
Well, it wasn't, but let's say it is.
Somebody mentions Cadden here, actually. TG Willis. Chris Cadden should show more confidence trying to beat players one-on-one. This aspect has vanished from his game this season. Great cut back to Boyle for the second goal, though.
I would agree with it. By the way, Cadden had... I thought he had a cracking game yesterday. There was one ball kind of coming out the sky that he caught, controlled just out right on the line. It was one of those ones you're like, that's going to go out for a throw into them, but he just brought it down brilliantly, and it might be in the lead up to the goal, actually. I thought Cadden was good. I'd like to see him take on people more often because he's done it a couple of times against Aberdeen. He sort of skinned two and created a chance at one point.
He done well last year. A lot of it. That's he was player of the year last year, wasn't he? It was a bit funny, like, because he got player of the year. Now I know it wasn't like there was loads to pick for last year, but he was player of the year. But at the start of the season, folk were like talking about the team and really talking him down. I thought I like Chris Cadden, but I thought a lot of folk were. I thought it was a bit harsh on him. I think now we're seeing like proper movement and midfielders getting forward and strikers making runs and being in the box. That I think we're seeing him be better again. And I maybe he's cut out the gone by players, but then was he maybe a wing back more then? Whereas now he's like a defensive fullback. So maybe his starting position's a bit further back and he doesn't want to take players on not as far up the park as he was last season. I don't know.
I don't know, but I thought he was taking folk on yesterday, but. I maybe just need to see a bit more of it. Tavares about not being good enough for Dean to go out on loan.
Yeah.
Do you think loan's the way to go with it, or do we use the development squad? And is that the route to go? Can you keep him at the club?
But they hardly play, yeah.
Well, they still have games that you could go to. I think if it's like loads of closed door ones, or how they set it up.
You never hear about them, eh? They hardly play. Like they hardly ever seem to have a game. But I mean, the thing is, it's one of them. It's who'd you put them on loan to? It has to be somebody in the same league. There's no point in sending them to the lower leagues.
Correct.
Surely you need to go to say Dundee United or whoever's bottom. The teams at the bottom. You just want a shot. Because we're not going to learn any in Ross County, but then do you want him at Ross County? It's too far away. Like, it's not too far away, right? He's away. If you go on loan to a Premier League team, you're away.
Aye.
Now, it's not like you're saying with the other ones where you could still have the part-time teams that go in and the train with Hibs a couple of days and with FC Edinburgh another 2 days. But going to a team like that's not used to. And the development side might be all right playing in the games against English teams, maybe. I don't see the point of them. Or the reserve league thing that happens every now and again.
I when they choose to.
But
the reserve league's back now, isn't it? That they brought it
back
for the season.
But there's only a handful of games. There's like 10 games or something. There's hardly any teams in it. Because Rangers, Celtic and Hearts have not got enough players because they've punted them onto that fucking...
Oh, the Colts.
The
Lowland League.
The Joiners and Plumbers League. You know what I mean? It's like, so... which I still can't see the benefit in. And I sound like I'm criticized, because I ken these boys are all fucking better, much better football players than I was, but imagine having Tavares going and playing in that. Like, what have we got to learn from that? Like, right. It's just, and it's the same with your youth teams. And I'm not criticising, because I ken boys that have played in the leagues and they're fucking 10 times, 100 times a player I am, or was, but, they're just jobbers that never made it, really, like when it comes down to it. And I didn't see why we would bother with it. On the other hand, I'd like to see the development team have more games. So
Aye.
And I'm going to see them on Wednesday night, actually. The Molda team. Well, they were. I saw them training today. Well, it's under 19s, but you know what I mean. It's the bulk of the development squad, isn't it?
Yeah.
So,
That'd be a good. I think Block 7 are doing something for that, aren't they? Like behind in the famous
Famous
five, to
Five. Yeah.
create a bit of atmosphere for it. I hope
I
there's
think I'm in the East.
a decent
I think I'm
crowd
in
for
the
that.
East. Yeah. You going?
Might try and get down. I had actually in the office that day, so
I think it's a fiver. I think it's just a fiver. I can't remember. I bought the tickets a couple of weeks ago. I think kids are under 13s are free. I think. And so I got 3 of us going down
I'll make
on
inquiries.
Wednesday night.
Um,
What else? What else? We'll just sweep up these last couple.
I
Then
sweep up the
we've
last
probably
one because we're
talked long
kind of
enough about it.
hitting out of time here. So,
Stuart Anderson, good problem to have. Talking about the squad size, some bench if things aren't going well. Glad he made the trip yesterday. Coming back, it was a happy bus. Gary Duffy, worrying the main strikers aren't banging in the goals. Ewan had enough time. McCurdy should be in the middle, not out on wing. And Giortolini, will Porteous be a one club man or will be heading away soon? Obviously, he's Hibs as fuck, but especially with him talking in the week about challenging himself at the highest level and that, he might not be with us forever. We covered that one. Go and listen to Spaces last night. We covered them in great detail.
aye.
Hopefully he signs a contract and we get some money out of him. But
Yeah, what was I going to say there? Could quickly summarise those points again, Colin, because I just lost my train of thought as you said about Porteous.
Good problem we have. The Porteous ones.
No, but just before Porteous. The strikers.
The strikers, Ewan and yeah.
Right. I agree with that in principle, because I think you always want your strikers scoring. But if you look at the way that we play and where the chances come from, is that the quality of the movement of the front three. Yeah. And you look who's starting to score. So Boyle came in off the wide position to score yesterday. Porteous was the other one who's like playing in an advanced position. So all the forwards, I can't remember who. There was another couple of players beside Porteous, but we had that many folk in the box that, you know, it didn't matter that the strikers didn't score. You had the centre half in there. But Josh Campbell's getting in amongst the goals. You'd expect McGuinness to. Newell scored this season. I think when you've got strikers who are occupying defences and pulling them into places they didn't want to go, it creates space for other players to go in and score. So I'm not totally concerned that they're not scoring, although it would be, you know, if you imagine if we had a 20 goal a season striker as well as Boyle, then we'd be tucking teams away by.
We do. He's due back at the World Cup time.
Aye, this is fair.
So yeah, I think there's quite a lot to look forward to. I kind of almost said no positive after being negative as fuck after like the St Mirren game, but that was the Livingston. I was pissed off, but then the St Mirren one really got me because I thought, here we fucking go. Every time we got away to a ground that we expect something, we let ourselves down. But maybe we'll hopefully turn that round.
Well, here's a question for you, and again, it's maybe one not for tonight, but just food for thought. Ian Gordon, the recruitment team, got absolutely slaughtered. But do you think there will be people reviewing that criticism just now, or is it still too early?
No, I don't think they will. I think they'll just wait until the next time we go on a bad run.
Until January. Wait till the January window if we didn't have 14 new players coming in.
Well, the thing is, like, I've not went through all the players, right? But there is quite a lot of misses as well. Like, there's a few hits, and there's a few misses, isn't there? Like we've already spoken about. I think if I want to name players, but you know what I mean. Like the guys that we've already mentioned that haven't made an impact. They were talking about putting in development squads and all of that. So the hits, Martin Boyle, right, easy one, Like Ian Gordon probably wasn't even fucking involved in that deal, but McCurdy. Potential. Folks seem to really rate him. Kenna definitely has made the Marshall. I mean, but then I think was Ian Gordon involved in that? I don't know. But you can't pick and choose
exactly
the ones you've got to criticise him for and the ones you've got to credit others for, right?
Aye, that's it. You can't get him all the duff ones and then say folk were duff, right? But you can't give him the duff ones and then.
But it seems like he gets the blame for like the Millers because nobody knows him. Right? The Bojan, because he came for a club nobody's heard of. It's him and his championship manager stuff and all that. So he's going to get criticised for the unknowns, I think.
Yeah.
Rightly or wrongly. Thing is, at the end of the day, his dad owns the fucking club, right? His dad's training him up to take over for him. He needs to go through and learn. So.
Aye. Fair dues. Maybe that's one we'll review before we get to the January window. We'll look at the hits and misses. The other thing though is that a few of those players are young players who've signed on quite big contracts. So it's maybe just like they're not quite there yet, and they might go on to be hits that we just kind of obviously write off players quite quickly these days. So maybe just a bit of patience required. Right, we are going to go and record extra time just now, where we'll be talking about the next 6 games. Just have a look ahead at those matches, see what sort of points total we think will come out of them, where the challenges and opportunities lie, etc. If you want to hear that, you can click on our wee link on our Twitter bio and go and subscribe, £3 a month. We've got tickets for a live show. We'll be doing Short Bangers live at Easter Road on the 28th of October. It's £10 if you're not a subscriber, only £7 if you are a subscriber. And you can DM us on Twitter for tickets for that. And watch out for us on Twitter Spaces. We'll be back on Tuesday there. So if you want to come and talk about this episode, tell us where we were talking shite or where you agree with us. We'd love to see you there. It's been really good, sort of growing the Twitter Spaces, and we're getting more and more folk on to give their opinions, and it's quite good to get that sort of range of opinions. We didn't know what folk are going to say in advance, and we didn't vet any of the comments or anything like that. So if you want to come on and speak, you're more than welcome. We'd love to hear from you. Again, just follow our Twitter at Longbangers, and you'll see the details there. Colin, thanks very much for your time there. I'll speak to you in a minute to record extra time, and everybody else, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
County line I pledged upon. Well, they trailed me down when I broke free. I drank all the whiskey in Tennessee.